Hi everyone, and welcome to this short presentation to help you through lesson 7 of creating a character. Before you do this, you should have already completed lessons 1 to 6. So you should already be thinking about who your character is going to be. So let's get started. This lesson explores the ways writers create a realistic voice for the characters so that you can do the same thing. To start, I'd like you to pause and read the 2 extracts on this slide. Think about which one interests you most and why. So one of them's from the 21st century and one the 19th century, which makes them very different. And it means that one of them is very colloquial and one is formal. So colloquial means informal or slang, so more everyday speech, which would be the Vernon God Little extract. And the other one is from the 19th century, so it's quite a formal extract. So pause and decide which one you like best and why, and which one would best suit your character. Welcome back. You need to think about how your character is going to speak, okay? What are they going to say? And if you want to have a memorable character, you need to give them unique voices. So you need to sound convincing and like the real people are really speaking, okay? So we're going to continue through this. And to help you do this, we're going to look at 3 extracts from 3 different novels, very different novels. The first is Catcher in the Rye, which is a 20th century American classic with a very distinctive young male narrator. So he's a teenager, this one. The second is Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine, which is narrated by a 29-year-old social misfit, and it was published in 2017. And then finally we have A Very Wide Expanse of Sea. It's a young adult novel set in 2002 and narrated by a 16-year-old Muslim girl. So you've got 3 very different voices here. You've got an adult woman who doesn't fit in society, you've got a teenage boy and a teenage Muslim girl. So keep thinking all of the time about how their voices are very, very distinctive. First up, Catcher in the Rye. So pause and read the extract, and then we'll answer the questions on the next slide. Welcome back. So what do we know about the narrator of Catcher in the Rye? We know he reads. He mentions David Copperfield, which is a book by Charles Dickens. He's run down. He has a brother who lives in Hollywood and he doesn't live at home at the moment. So that's literally what we find out about the character, what he tells us and what he reveals to us. But actually he reveals other things as well. So what do you assume about the character and what makes you make these assumptions are what he reveals indirectly. So I thought that he sounds like a very angry character. His use of goddamn, crap, crummy and I hate would suggest that he's angry, something has annoyed him in his life, and we're going to find out about that. My 3 words to describe the character as angry, disillusioned and jaded. He mentions Hollywood, says he hates the movies. He doesn't want to conform at all. He wants to be outside of this world that he finds himself in. And I don't like the character, so my answer to question 4 is I don't like the character at all. He's very self-involved and only interested in himself. He doesn't seem to care about anybody else at all. But what I think Salinger wants, I think he might want me to feel that. Absolutely. And he wants me to be interested enough to keep reading. So I do want to find out what has made him that angry and that unlikable. And want to work out whether by the end of the novel I'd quite like him. But he does have a very distinctive voice, and that's why I don't like him. Salinger's managed to create that idea about him. And he comes to life on the page because of the way he speaks. So next I want you to pause and do this with Eleanor Oliphant, okay? Welcome back. So So what do you think about Eleanor Oliphant? What do you know about her? And then what can you assume about her? And what is the writer telling you that makes you make these assumptions? You should have 3 words to describe the character. And do you like her? I do quite like Eleanor Oliphant. And I think that the writer does want us to like her. However, she also has a very distinctive voice. And this distinctive voice is quite formal and measured, like she's keeping tight hold on everything that she does. So she comes across as a very distinctive person. I'll get a lot of her personality from the way she speaks. Now I want you to pause and have a think about the character in A Very Large Expanse of Sea. Welcome back. So, what do we know about this character? We know that it's a young person who changes schools a lot. What do you assume about the character and what makes you make these assumptions? What 3 words have you got to describe this character, and what is it the writer's done that's made you come up with those 3 words? And do you like the character? This character, I feel a bit sorry for her. She's shuttled from pillar to post. And she's moved schools an awful lot, so she's constantly on her back foot, constantly trying to make new friends. So I think that's very interesting. I'd like you now to compare the 3 characters and what makes the voice of each distinctive. Are there any particular speech style or words or phrases that are part of a character's idiolect? And your idiolect is what makes you you. It's the verbal tics that you have that make your speech yours in particular and differentiates your speech from anybody else's. We all have speech habits. Mine, for example, is saying right a lot. So when I want something to happen, I'll go right. And I probably say it about, I would say 15 to 20 times in a lesson. And it is peculiar to me. Other teachers have other words that they use a lot. Okay. What does differentiate these speakers is the formality level of their speech. So we've got this colloquialism, which means to use non-formal speech as slang. And it can include swear words, and it sort of conveys the idea of youth quite frequently, or a lack of education. Now I think in both of the extracts, A Very Wide Expanse of Sea and Catcher in the Rye, it's not about that lack of education, it's about those young people, because they both use taboo words and swearing. So there is an idea that they're a lot less formal, and that may well appeal to a reader, and it certainly is useful to know that you can do that when you're creating the voice of your character. Eleanor Oliphant, on the other hand, has a really sophisticated vocabulary and is very precise in her speech. And that means that you might not get as emotionally involved with her as quickly. So you need to think about these things as you create a voice for your character, the character that you're creating. And this needs to be a really vivid voice that's peculiar to them, particular to them. So make a note of anything you can magpie or steal from these 3 extracts, and anything else that you've read or watched or heard. And this will help make your character come to life and make them sound realistic and engage your reader. And it creates a relationship between your reader and your character, and that's what you're aiming to do. So it's time to create your character, okay? So what I want you to do is, on the next slide, there are lots of boxes, and I'd like you to complete them in as much detail as you possibly can. Use the extracts you've just read and the photograph you chose at the end of lesson 3. So that character, you've got a visual of that character that you're going to create, and now you're going to create the voice that goes with them. So, thank you very much for listening. Happy creating, and off you go. Thank you.